So I'm going to start outlining some chords, variations on chords, such as embellishments, extensions, chord progressions, things that connect well. And somewhere down the road I'll do one on keys as well, but this is going to be totally for guitar. So I'm going to start like ridiculously simple. We're going to start on a C chord. And I'm just doing that. I think this is probably, everybody knows this chord because it's probably the first one ever introduced in any kind of songbook. And we've got the 3rd fret on the 5th string. That's a C, so that's the root. In fact, we're going to have 2 roots in this chord. We get the 3rd on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. That's an E. G's easy because it's just the 3rd string open G. And then we get to double that C, which that is actually referred to as a block chord when you have the C, the root on the top and the bottom. Okay, so that's a block. I'm on vacation and I'm hearing some peculiar sounds. Very peculiar sounds. Okay. So don't mind. You hear there's kids running around and all sorts of good stuff. So, but okay, so that's a C, right? Now let's do just a little modification to that. Let's do A minor. I know I left, and I think everybody kind of knows that one too. But what's kind of cool is we can also block that. And we can throw this C right here. Now that turned that C chord into a C major 6 chord. So it was the addition of changing the open 3rd string G to the 2nd fret A. I don't know if you can see it, I'm actually lifting that finger off. So that's a pretty decent major 6 chord, and it gets used a lot, and sometimes people will actually play the 5th in the bass. I kind of prefer that one. I like it. This one's a little, when you do a block chord, they seem to also be compressed, you know. This one seems to open it up quite a bit. So major 6, that's first embellishment you can do on a major chord. Next would be the major 7. That's a real easy one because then all you have to do is take that C off of the 2nd string 1st fret and just play 2nd string open. Very pretty chord, the C major 7. Right? Nice pretty chord. And then if I was going to go on maybe a little bit further, embellishments, I might do maybe the C6 add 9 chord. So what I'm going to do with this one, and then we're finally going to do a bar, B-A-R-R-E. That's using your index finger to be a movable nut. And I'm going to basically bar at the 2nd fret, and I'm going to put my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, and then I'm going to take my ring finger and I'm going to put that on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. That's going to give me a C6 add 9 chord. Another really pretty one. And if I wanted, I could maybe even throw in the G on the end. Another nice little variation on that chord. You could actually do the whole shebang if you want. You know, I got a pretty decent size finger here. So that's all the way across. I got G, C, E, A, D, G. Get some breakup. So that's all the sort of stuff that I can do. Oh, here's another nice one. Let's do a C6 add 9 sharp 11. Okay. What's really going on here is kind of like I have two chords superimposed on each other. I have D up in this end, and I got a little bit of a C down on this end. That's a beautiful sound. So I use that a lot. As a matter of fact, that's a nice one on keyboard, you know, using overlaid chords, superimposed chords. It's a better word for that. So we found C major 7. You can do it this way, right? If I learn C this way, then I can lower on the 3rd string. I can lower that to the 4th fret instead of being on the 5th fret. So I got 5th string 3rd fret, 4th string 5th fret, 3rd string 4th fret, and 2nd string 5th fret. And that's a really nice voicing for the C major 7. This one lays it out with C, G, and actually this is a real typical thing though. In keyboards, a lot of times in your left hand you'll have the root 5, and in your right hand you'll lay out the 7 and 3. And so that's exactly what's happening here. So this voicing is really something that's been borrowed from piano. And then another thing we could have done, right, because we knew we had this whole little bar here. This bar was giving me G, C, E. Yeah, that's a 2nd inversion C chord. Now I can throw maybe A onto the 1st string, right, so there's another C6. Or I could throw on the 7th fret on the 1st string, and it gives me a B. So there's that C major 7. See? So we're getting into some pretty good layouts of it. Right, so that's all C major 7, just in different voicings. Another one that's really, really nice is this, which is kind of cool. If I take from that B on the 7th fret on the 1st string, lay on the 2nd string 8th fret, lay on the 3rd string 9th fret, and then finally with your last finger left, you end up with your root. That's a C on the 10th fret of the 4th string. So I have C, E, G, B. So that's exactly this, C, E, G, B, just higher. So that's a nice one. And then there's another cool one. And this one, I'm going to use that root that was on the 4th string 10th fret. So that's C. And then I get G, E, G, B, E, which is nothing more than just whatever I had open at the double dot or the 12th fret. You're a whole octave above whatever you had open. So this is G, B, E with C on the bottom, and I could maybe even lay that over, so I'm grabbing up the G over here. Right? So you got all those chords available. Right? So those are nice. Another one I love to use a lot is it's a C6 add 9. And it's a block chord. I got C on this end and C on that end. But really wide and open too. Right? I say that these chords were borrowed from piano, but to tell you the truth, I think the piano borrowed them from us. Because in piano, they have a tendency to usually just, you know, do very close groupings because everything's linear. Everything's just lined out like this. Where we can have many strings and layouts on a guitar neck. So a piano, what they try to do is get away from this clunched in, cluster. They like to open it up, make some space in the chords. So they open it up. They use open voicings. And guitar is nothing but open voicings. It's very difficult. Well, in this case, it wasn't so difficult for me to go C, E, G, B. I was going right in alphabetical order. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, so it's just stacking thirds, right? And the other thing that's nice on guitar is it's really a kind of fourths layout, because if you go from E to A, right? E, F, G, A. Oh, it's the interval of a fourth. If I went from A to D, A, B, C, D, fourth. D to G, D, E, F, G. Yeah, okay, cool. G to B. What happened? G, A, B. We get a third stuck in here, which means we have to do fingering differences when we move things around. You can't. It would have been great if they just made the whole guitar in fourths. So if we had a C and an F at the end instead of a B and an E. And then when you go B to E, you went back to fourths. So between the second and first string, I'm back on fourths. So weird stuff. And playing things in fourths is really cool. Right? So I love doing that. It's one of my favorite things to do is throw in quartal harmony stacked on fourths. So, all right, so we've covered the major sevenths, right? Major sixes. I didn't go too far on that. There's another one that's beautiful. And this I used to hear. That used to be the chord of choice in big band music. That was the one. It had a nice sound to it. If you look at the Barry Harris, he loved major six chords. He'd do major six, and then the next thing would be diminished, and then he'd do another major six, diminished, major six, diminished, and on and on and on. That's a piano thing in itself, so I'm not going to go there. But this major six chord, really nice voicing. You can hear that, the big band type of thing. Right? So good stuff. And then there's another one that the one here, it looks like I'm going to bar, but I'm going to trick the bar because I'm going to mute that string, because if I didn't, I'd end up with a 13th chord. All right, so I don't want that. I want to get rid of that flat 7. So I'm going to do C, that's the 8th fret on the 6th string. 10th fret is giving me my G, and then I'm getting my E and my A. So again, I got my root 5, and then I got my fancy stuff over here. I got my 3 and my 6. Right? No, a beautiful voicing. There's that 6 add 9. I use that a lot. I use that too. Right? So, nice stuff. Okay. So that would cover pretty much most of the major voicings you're ever going to need on a guitar. For embellishments, major 6s, major 6 add 9s, major 7s, major 7s add 9, add sharp 11. So that's your major. Your major is pretty well covered with that, right? So then the next chords, really the next chord, besides the major chord, right, would be probably the dominant seventh. You can write songs with just the root and the five, and there's many of them. And of course, naturally, we do like to have a four chord, or a two minor. So if I had two minor, 5, 7, 1, bango. I've just about learned every jazz tune known to man. If you like jazz, you better stack up on those 2, 5, 1 riffs. There's a ton of them out there on YouTube. And so I'm not going to go there too much. I end up like, who knows. But so let's continue on. So I'm going to go with the dominant sevenths. Okay. So let's go back to that original C chord. And what I just did now is, instead of having that open G on the third string, I'm using the third fret on the third string and just putting it in. It's that one finger I had left, and I'm managing to get C7, C dominant 7. Now, we don't put dominant 7 into the chord thing. It just says C7, okay? So if you see that, you got a dominant 7th on your hands. I guess they're lazy. They don't want to write the word out. Because if they do a C major 7, they do put C, capital M, 7 is one way, or they might put C, M-A-J, 7, abbreviation of major, and sometimes they'll even do a C and then a triangle shape, 7. So there's some wild variations on chord spellings, or chord symbols. Is really what I'm going at. It's chord symbols. But the fact that that if you ever just see a letter and 7, you're on a dominant 7th chord. So here's the first one. Here's one that we borrowed, remember we had a C chord that was like this, which would have been a partial bar on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. I would have gave me my second inversion C chord here. I would have had G, C, E. And then I'm putting my root down here. And then we did the C major 7 by dropping that 5th fret on the 3rd string down to the 4th fret. Well, with the help of this bar, you can go down that one more step further, so we can have the 3rd fret in the bar. And that's a nice chord. Right? So that's a cool one. Here's another one. This one stems from, if I had done if you guys look up the Cage system, C-A-G-E, what they do is, you got a C chord, you got an A chord, you got a G chord, and you got an E chord. So they base off of those shapes. Okay? So this is based off of the E from the Cage system. And I can do this, right? Now, on a good day, I'm back in the major land, but well, if I take this and I utilize that bar, so it's a C7. And food for thought for learning another chord, minor 7th, all you have to do is pick this up and move it down one string. You got yourself a minor chord. You can see it's totally a different chord. Okay. But that's also, when we get to the minors, you'll see that one comes in. So that's a nice shape there, right? Then there's some inside forms. Like when you learn the C7, if I could throw that D on there, so I got rid of that blocked root. So now I have C, E, G, B, B flat D. So C, E, B flat D. here's another food for thought for you. If you take that, move it up here, put the root here, you get yourself a nice sharp 9 chord. Oh, and then there's a nice 9th chord that we do like this. So this is a rootless voicing. This one doesn't have a root in it at all. So this one I'm going to use 7th fret on the 5th string. That gives me an E. I can get my 9 right here by using the 7th fret on the 3rd string. And then I can use my ring finger to stack in the 8th fret. That gives me my B flat. And then right here I can use my pinky to do 8th fret on the 2nd string. It gives me a G. So I got E, B flat, D, G. Now the 9th chord. I use this one a lot in blues. Right, and it was back to this. Right, you can do this just as well with, you know, like I can get the G and C together. I can get my E here. I get my B flat D. I can even throw in my G if I want. Right, it's big, huge. All 6 strings are activated. But yeah, so up here. Gonna throw in a couple of riffs, keep the boredom down. So anyway, yeah, so those are typical dominant 7th chords. And then dominants get really interesting when we get into the altered dominant 7th chords. And that's where we're going to start throwing in sharp 5s, flat 5s, sharp 9s, flat 9s, things like that. So we're going to get a lot more sophisticated chords. So a nice one, right? That's a C7, but it's got a sharp 5 and a sharp 9 on it. I got B flat, E, G sharp, D sharp. So that's, right? That's an extension, a very highly modified jazz extension. And what altered dominant 7ths do is they just create a little more tension than the dominant 7th itself has. So the dominant 7th is a tension chord and it needs release. So guess where it releases to? It's either going to go to a major or it might even go to a minor, depending on the mood of the song. So we can have minor roots. We can have dominant 7th roots too. I think the blues is based on that. So my root here is C7. So I'm actually already dominant 7th. All right. So yeah, in earlier blues, it was the major 6. So very good. All right, so I'll leave the altered dominants for another thing, because I just want to go through basic forms today. So let's go into the minors, okay? So going from here, it's not actually all that easy, because I need that flat 3, and so here is not giving me. So that's an interesting one there. I'm just using the 3rd fret on the 5th string, and that's a toughie to get. 1st fret on the 4th string, E flat, and I got to come in really wide on this finger. I am bent that thing over to the max because I don't want to lay back on my G. I need that G. And I certainly don't want to do the E on the end. Yeah, see, I'll kill it if I do that. So we got to block that. So I'm going to just keep my finger there. And what that chord is doing is that's a C minor major 7. Okay, because I actually use the scale tone 7th on the end. C, E flat, G, B. So that's an interesting chord in itself. And it gets used. There's a chord progression all itself, and I didn't do anything but change the embellishment of the chord. So this is a C minor major 7, C minor 7, C minor 6. So all one chord, just different embellishments. I was just the other day, we were fooling around with it was a salsa, and it had, how'd it go? Yeah, this is a similar idea. This one though is based on an E minor, right? But I'm taking the root, I go back and visit the 5. So root 5, major 7, 5, flat 7, 5, 6, right? And then I just got a little bit of left over space, A, B, so I just throw in that. So that's a fun tune, fun stuff. You know, so good to have some hot salsa in a summer day, you know. So, but okay, so we're on the minors. So the easiest one is going back to this C major that we had, right? And it's pretty easy now to drop the E down to E flat right there. So I get C, G, C, E flat. And that's kind of a cool one. If I wanted to do this, I can get back that C minor major 7. And what I did was I dropped the C down to B2. Right? So I get C, G, B, E flat on that one. And if I drop that down even further, C minor 7. So, and this is that form we were talking about earlier. If it's over here. And that's pretty nice because remember, dominant 7th, G dominant 7th, that's a 5 chord going to 1 minor. See? Or it could have been to the 1 major. So that's back to square one. Like I said, the dominance, that tension needs a release. That's the release. Go into either the major or the minor. Okay, so then we can also, seeing how we had that caged form C, right? So we had that like E shape. Which those are really nice when you're just moving them around, using open strings along with it too. But then when you add that capo, that nice little free came, most people have an index finger. So that's what all I'm doing with that. I'm just kind of moving that. Okay, so if I go from here, here's my C major. Just go to the bar, and I only got the C, the G, the C, The E flat is over here on the 8th fret on the 3rd string. So I'll outline it. It's 6th string, 8th fret, 10 and 10 on the 5th and 4th respectively. And then keep this guy up a little high because you got to make sure that that E flat rings through. And then you might block it and pro C on both ends. Right? So you got things like that. Here's another one that I like to use. It's just a little inside voicing, but you know, we get a lot of that triangle shape. Like here was, this was major, right? C major 7. Here's C minor 7. Right? So that will get you going, you know, through an awful lot of things. Oh, and we're going to talk about progressions too, right? So let's say I was on the C major 7, right? I'm basically spelling up the major scale in 7th chords. So I had C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, could have G dominant 7th, I need an A minor, maybe I'll go there, and then I need the B minor 7 flat 5, and then I'm back to root. So that's all of the 7th chords in a major scale family. So just going up a few of them and coming and releasing back, that's a nice progression in itself. Right, of course I'd be using my major pentatonic scales maybe on that, right? Because it's going to fit. So now I don't have to change my scale necessarily if I'm using something that's all in one tonal center. So this is all tonal to C. So I don't have to be like changing my pentatonic scale constantly. You know, I could say, oh, I got a C. So now I'm kind of thinking too much, you know. I'm overthinking it, but of course it would fit, it would work, because technically it's correct. So I'm fitting each one of the chords of the moment if I'm doing that way. And if you're going to do things like that, I'd say the better way to do it is be real thoughtful about it and try and make the transition as smooth as possible. So if I'm on C, I might slip into the D minor discreetly, is what's going on. So I actually slipped into a little of the E minor and then right back into the D minor. So that, you know, it'll be better that way. Oh, I think. So, yeah, so chord progression. So, like I say, you can just stay in one tonal center, but I like to connect. So what I did was I dropped in chromatically a diminished chord in between each one of these chords. So C major 7, this is a C sharp diminished. And what it is I have anything in this chord could be a root, but here's a C sharp, here's a G, here's a B flat, and there's an E. See how nice and smoothly it connects the C major to the D minor? Right? so I did the same idea right here between the D minor and the E minor, threw that in. There I did a G7 sharp 5 after the F. And then I did C6 add 9. So So that's a nice progression, and using those chromatic diminished chords in between really it's a nice way of connecting things, putting smooth transitions. Whole thing in progressions is having nice voice leadings, things that really connect well. So that'll give you a good idea on that. I also like using, say I'm on this, this would be G. Here's another diminished form. This would be G sharp diminished. So see if I'm out here, here's my G, 6 add 9, A minor 7, B minor 7. So very easy switch to here to create a diminished chord is I use G sharp, I got F here, B here, and D. That's a different chord. And this one here, I'd really actually kind of think of this as being like an E9 for I might be getting ahead of things here. So yeah, that's a G6 add 9, G sharp diminished, A minor 7, A sharp diminished. Okay, so now I'm looking at this as a B minor. So yeah, okay, B minor. Here I'm a E flat, E7 flat 5. And this was a D7, I'm sorry, this is D7. Oh yeah, that's right, because this was E7. That doesn't slight, that when I go here, that doesn't quite ring. Be better if I went like that. See, so that's, again, that voice leading thing. See, that sounds so much more connected than this. Too much of a movement, see? So that's why I'm saying you gotta think about voice leading and make as smooth a transition as you can. That's why we need a lot of voicing, so we can do things like that, make our choices well. All right, I gave you way too much on this lesson, so I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks.